When you have data in an Excel table that you want to import in the data model, you can use the Linked Tables feature in Power Pivot. In this workbook, we already loaded a few tables directly from AdventureWorks, and we have created a table in Excel that contains a list of model names of our products, and for each model name there is a model group to which this model belongs to. We want to use this information in order to create a new classification of the models of our products. In this case, we will have only 3 model groups, which are top, medium and low. Now, in order to import this table into our Power Pivot data model, we have to go in the Power Pivot ribbon and click the Add to Data Model button. Once the import operation is completed, you will see that in the Power Pivot window you have a models table. This name comes from the name of the table in Excel. Don't confuse this with the worksheet name, and we will see this better in a few moments. Now we can go to the diagram view and create the relationship between the DIM product table and our new models table. In fact, the model name column in the models table has one value for each row of the table and can be used as a key in the relationship. In other words, the models table will be a lookup table from the point of view of the DIM product table, in the same way like the DIM product subcategory is a lookup table for the DIM product. In other words, this will be a way to group products and, for this reason, also to group sales of the corresponding products into the same group. We can see the result by creating a new pivot table in which we put the model groups that we just created. As you see, the models table is now part of the data model, and we can drag and drop the model groups into the rows, and for example we can add the sales amount into the values area. As you see, we see the total of the sales amount for the group low, medium and top that groups all the products of the models that belongs to the group that we defined into our table. And as you see, we can also cross the product name and see which products belongs to this model group. It is important to remember that since the models table can be changed in its content in Excel, as soon as you refresh the content of the models table in Excel, you can also refresh the content of the Power Pivot table, and so also the result of this pivot table. There is another important consideration about the name of the table in the data model. This model's name seems the same name of the table that we have in the data model. However, this is not entirely true. In fact, if we rename this name as model groups, for example, what we expect is that we will see the same name in the pivot table. However, if we go back to the pivot table and try to refresh the pivot table itself, we see that this name does not change. Now, the reason is that the name that we see there is the name of the table in Excel. In fact, if we change this name to model names, first of all we get an error because we cannot use spaces inside the name of the table. But once we use a name like model names as a single word, you can see that this table name appears in pivot table fields as a table. So this is the right way to rename the table. Renaming the table name in Excel, not in Power Pivot. I suggest you to do this renaming operation before importing the table in the Power Pivot data model and not after that. The last consideration is about what happens if you try to import the same table twice into the data model. If you go in the Power Pivot ribbon and click Add to Data Model again on a table that you already imported, you get this error that says that you cannot import the same table twice. If you need to do that, you have to create 2 copies of the table in Excel so that each table will be imported only once in the data model. For this reason, you also need to create 2 tables with 2 different names in Excel so that you will have 2 different table names in the data model too.